Hey there everyone, welcome to the final FMA BR episode breakdown. Today, we're looking at episode 14, The Full Metal Alchemist. So I mentioned this one briefly in the dub-with video as needing some more elaboration on its very existence. FMA BR already had its season finale, right? And this episode has almost nothing to do with anything anyway. The series almost completely disregards it after it happens, and it works just fine if you remove it completely. Except for here.
That must be why...
You've sworn your life to the state as a dog of the military. But do you really know the ones you serve or what their true plans are?
You've got a speck of power, and you have the arrogance to assume you're the one who's in control of it.
Don't be a fool! He'll lead us all to ruin! I'm only doing what needs to be done!
So that means we can't just cut McDougal out, and to be honest, I wasn't sure where to put him at first. I initially tried blending it into Show Tucker, bridging the day sections with Isaac's nightly attacks, but that became increasingly convoluted and nonsensical as I tried to develop it, and so was abandoned. After that, I considered including it during Ed's recovery after Lab 5, but since the moment Ed's healed the brothers and Winry go to Rush Valley, there's no clean way to split it in. I even considered changing course and putting it back at the beginning. It is clearly made to be a first episode after all. But that fell through in favor of keeping Lior as the start for its stronger world building and better introduction to the series-wide themes. And after that, I ran out of cohesive spots to put it, so I just tacked it here at the end. While this isn't ideal, I think it's the best course of action we can take given the circumstance. In its current form, this episode exists as basically a Season 1 recap. It's fairly redundant because of that, but at least it kinda works if you think of it less as a finale and more as the start of something new. I guess that's what it really is. And that is something to keep in mind. FMA BR does not exist as a standalone property. It exists as an alternative companion piece to Brotherhood, episodes 15 and onward. And just in case this was ever a misconception, no, this was never meant to replace 2003 in any way. That series is perhaps even worthy of a re-edit of its own at some point. But for now, this purely exists as an alternate take on early Broho, nothing more. Anyway, it's time to look at that timeline. There's not much to speak of in terms of major editing except for the end credits, and even then it's pretty basic stuff. The only contentious removal here may be a bit from Hughes. I removed him entirely from this episode even though it was a flashback. I did this not only to mitigate an unwanted audience reaction, but also because a few of his scenes here did make it into Show Tucker. Beyond that, there really isn't much to this one, as it includes no use of 2003 footage or music whatsoever. Even still, I think it acts as a decent way to kick off Season 2 of FMA Brotherhood. Normally, that would be the end of the video, but there are a few things I want to touch on before we wrap things up here. First, I gotta address a question. Where are the side stories from the manga? They made it into 03, so why not just use that footage? The answer is pretty simple. The side stories are entirely extras in the manga. They don't serve any greater purpose in the manga narrative, and therefore I didn't see a need to include them, especially there are also two alternate takes on events that were considered but ultimately not used. The first being a version of Marco's notes that didn't include Sheska. In this version, Central Library just never burnt down, so grabbing Marco's notes was a non-issue for the brothers. I didn't go with it mostly because Sheska is still a relevant character even after those events, meaning that cutting her first appearance might make later ones seem oddly handled. The other is a bit more interesting, using the 2003 version of Dr. Marco. This might seem highly unnecessary seeing as that whole plot was 2003 exclusive, but if you think about it, it could have been a great addition to the mangahood narrative. Having this encounter between Scar and Marco early on will truly implement Scar's transformation in mangahood when the two cross paths once again, and even end up as allies by the end of the series. While all of that could be beneficial, it would require significantly more changes to be made to the series. I would have to keep making FMA BR all the way up to episode 35 of Brotherhood, with a lot of episodes featuring little to no changes. Perhaps it could be done, but what you'd gain could be undercut by some of the consistency you'll lose, notably in the voice actor department. Outside of all those cases, I decided to make a little compilation of the new good and bad that has come from combining the two series. These are mostly based around changes in thematic devices and continuity alterations. Let's take a look. And that's about it, right? Well, yes and no. Any and all editing work for FMA BR is pretty much done in terms of combining the two series, but there might be a few other elements that could improve the project that are just a little out of my wheelhouse. See you guys in the FMA BR epilogue, where we'll discuss the handling of the series moving forward. See you then.